What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
America. We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At Grand Canyon University, we believe in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. To serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
The following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, your tune to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman. I'm Kevin Oberland, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota National Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drug Store. Kevin, you just got back from the swamp.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It is a swamp.
Yeah, you're in a little bit of a mood this morning.
Yeah.
Kind of just go to D.C. and shake your head a little bit and go, what the hell is going on?
It's actually disturbing. You know, once we get into it and some of the issues that we're having as small compounding pharmacies, you can imagine the breadth of the issues going on in Washington, and especially with our regulatory agencies and the oversight and overreach. It's never been so bad. I've been there a lot, and it's never been this bad.
I've said this a lot, and the two things you have to do to fix the country is the insurance industry and rein in Big Pharma. And the insurance industry and Big Pharma are morphing into one.
Oh, yeah.
And that's even way worse. I mean, that's a monster you're not going to be able to control it.
No. And, you know, the insurance industry they're getting to be our healthcare provider. You know, they're buying up large private doctor practices and employing doctor practices and approaching human resource departments in the country, touting their medical model, and it's a closed system. So patients are going to be forced into using.
Yeah, you got to go see our doctor.
You got to see our doctor to get your prescription.
Kind of that Obamacare. Oh, you can keep your doctor. Bull crap. Yeah. No, you can't. And now we're getting that shoved down our throats. You know, whether it's legislatively or it's the industry, we are going to that single payer system, but it's a closed system.
It is. It's very much closed up.
So as a patient, you're going to tell me who to go see, when I can go see them, why I can go see them. We're not going to cover that. No, we're not. Well, we might cover that if you go to our doctor.
Right.
So they get the double dip or triple dip or quadruple dip in some cases.
Yeah. And I think
that's not the best. That is not in the best interest of the patient.
It's the worst thing for the patient because everything is decided looking through the eyes of the dollars that can be generated. It's not what is the best health care for that individual patient. We are so far away from that. And, you know, I was on the Hill as a compounding pharmacist protecting our rights, to see our patients, consult with our patients, work with our practitioners, back to that whole triad of care. But that's a small problem compared to what's going on overall. You know, I was in all three congressional offices. I met with the people that I know in the offices. I got to meet personally with Senator Hoeven. And as much as we talk about, and there's some egregious things going on in the compounding world, everything morphs into the PBMs. The conversation ends there because that's at the front of their minds. They to their credit, they've really realized that this model is broken. These benefits.
So Congress is aware of it.
I believe they're very aware of it.
Now, there's two paths you can go down, though, with that, because there's the government-run health care, which a lot of us that are a little bit of more conservative ilk, hell no. We look at Canada and go, socialized medicine does not work.
No.
So if you're looking at Congress that's paying attention to the PBMs, and we've had conversations about the PBMs in the past, and they started out as being a positive and just morphed into something that's an incredible negative. But if you're looking at Congress going, okay, I'm trying to think of how they're going to fix things, there's two paths I see, and they're very different paths.
Yeah. So...
And one is that socialized medicine model, because that's the easy fix. Or there's a hard fix, and that hard fix is going to be hard.
Our biggest problem is the plan sponsors for healthcare are being grossly overcharged for the services provided by the PBMs. So if you look at, you're an individual, you're employed, there's 20 people in the company that you work for, you have a healthcare plan. Hopefully you have a healthcare plan, because if you don't, it's unaffordable. But your primary healthcare plan is called the plan sponsor, and the plan sponsor employs a PBM to administer the prescription benefits, and that service is then charged to the plan sponsor. The promise years ago was that with negotiating and using formularies, the PBMs would be able to control the cost of prescription drugs, and that savings would go back to the plan sponsors to help control the cost of premiums.
And that's not where the savings go.
Well, there's no cost there. When was the last time your healthcare premium went down?
Yeah, was there savings at all?
Our biggest problem right now is with Medicare, the Medicaid systems, the dollars that are being needed, which are mostly taxpayers' dollars. Our government programs are the plan sponsor. So they're employing these PBMs to help save them money, and they're being grossly overcharged. You know, we talked a few weeks ago about how a postal workers union, the inspector general found $48 million of overcharge fees from the PBM. That's going on all over. There are so many lawsuits right now going on where state Medicaid programs, public employee programs are suing the PBMs to try to get transparency to see how much they've been overcharged for the services provided.
Is that where it starts, is just the transparency side?
I think
you would think that, okay, especially with government, there should be all the transparency in the world. You should be able to go, show me the records.
You would think so.
That should be how it should work.
Or you don't.
My taxpayer dollars. Show me the records.
Or you don't employ them. The problem is in our Medicare program, there's 3 large PBMs. They control about 90% of the population of the prescription drugs. So if you fire them, what do? There's got to be some plan moving forward on what do we do once these people are transparent. Because if the transparency, and there's bills on the Hill right now, both from the Senate and the House. There's 2 separate bills. One is more directed to CMS to look at the predatory pricing that's happening at the pharmacy and healthcare in general. Because we're not the only ones that are being ripped off by these big insurance companies, healthcare providers, medical health systems, nurses, doctors. We're all being ripped off by these people, not only as employees of the healthcare system, but as taxpayers.
Well, and you would think that, okay, who's insulated from this? Is it the doctors? Is it the nurses? Is it the hospitals? And it seems like the PBMs working through the insurance company and the big pharma, they're taking a piece from everybody.
Oh yeah, they're
everybody,
and they changed their model. They're stealth. And by that I mean, without transparency, we do not see what's happening to these dollars, other than I can almost 100% assure you that they're keeping the majority of these dollars for themselves. How else do the 3 big PBMs have a valuation in 2023 of $530 billion? It's like their own little government.
We're talking with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, fresh back from a trip to Washington, D.C. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. And we're talking with Kevin Oberlander about his trip to Washington, D.C. And, of course, things always come back to the damage being done by PBMs. Kevin, just backing up a little bit, what was the impetus? What was going on in D.C. that brought you there to the swamp?
So I typically go twice a year. There's two main compounding pharmacy Capitol Hill events. The one that I was at just most recently is sponsored by the Professional Compounding Centers of America, which is a vendor. They provide us with materials, equipment, raw materials, consulting services, programming, coaching. They're the gold standard, in my opinion, for compounding pharmacy and who you work with. So I always like to go to their event. It's a little bit smaller. They call it ACT, and there were probably 40, 45 of us pharmacists there that went to Capitol Hill. I almost didn't go because it's like the issues are always the same. I'm kind of tired of talking to the same people about the same issues.
Without any change.
But you really just have to keep your nose to the grindstone with these legislative bodies. And, to our credit, I've gotten to know Joseph in Representative Armstrong's office, Ryan in Senator Kramer's office, and Ty in Senator Hoven's office. I've gotten to know them very well. You have a relationship. You don't have to explain yourself as a compounding pharmacist. I went to a couple meetings with some of my colleagues because we're on the Hill and we have time. I only have 3 meetings scheduled, so I tag along. And sometimes you get into an office where it's either a new legislator or a new office staff, and they have no idea what compounding pharmacy is. So you spend a lot of time explaining what it is that you do and then trying to explain what the issues are. So you don't really make a lot of headway if there's a lot of turnover. I'm a little concerned that we're going to have some turnover in Congress this year. There's a lot of retirements going on. We're going to lose Representative Armstrong as in the House, and he's been a real champion for us on the compounding pharmacy side. He's visited our pharmacy. One of our major asks, and I'll explain the situation, but one of our major asks of the legislative bodies was, please come to see what we do. Don't listen to the pundits. Don't listen to Big Pharma when they complain about compounding pharmacies digging into their business, which is really kind of a joke because you talk about a drop in the ocean. But please come and look at our pharmacies and look at it as what we do.
Stop right there, though, because when I hear that, the first thing that pops into my head is they're not concerned about the best outcome of a patient. Because you and I have had this conversation, and I'm a big believer in compounding pharmacy because it's personalized care and fitting something to something specific that somebody needs.
Right.
The best outcome for the patient, because here, take a pill for that. One size fits all doesn't always work. In fact, quite often it doesn't. But that's where compounding pharmacy comes in for me.
Right.
And I look at it, okay, somebody's got a specific issue, and you can address that specific issue specifically.
Right.
And when I hear Big Pharma say, but they're going to cut into, they're not concerned about the patient.
No.
That's the first thing that pops into my head. They're not concerned about the patient. They're just concerned about the dollars associated with a number.
If you listen to the ads on TV and somebody like, and I don't care anymore. Somebody like Optum sponsoring a golf tournament pops up and they tell you how much they care about patients' health. I don't think there's anything farther from the truth, to be honest with you.
You know, the funny part about that is it's like most people are going to go, what's Optum?
Right.
It's kind of like the Super Bowl ads when you see the Super Bowl ad and the ad gets done and they paid millions of dollars for this ad and you're like, what did they just advertise?
Who is that?
Yeah, or what did they just advertise?
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Cute ad, but I have no idea what it was.
Yeah.
An Optum or some of these big PBMs behind the things that are names that people go, I have no idea what that is. They have to Google it.
The public needs to know what they are, and they need to know what they are by getting these guys into courts and fining them for the egregious patterns of abuse and using taxpayers' money to their benefit. Then we'll know who they are. But until we get to that point, and it does come back to transparency, and I think that.
So does this all start? It starts with transparency, but it really has to start in Congress. It's where some of the changes have to make, isn't it?
To be honest, Steve, I think it needs to start with the public. The public needs to be made aware of what is happening, not only as patients but as taxpayers. This is costing taxpayers tons and tons of money.
Billions.
I'm more angry as a taxpayer almost than I am as a pharmacist for the abuse that's being put on the public by these people. And
okay, again, though, I'll throw that back on the congressional delegations, and Congress needs to fix that.
Right.
They need to be, because they're the ones with the purse, especially in the House. They're the ones with the purse strings. They should know where that money's going. Then why?
They're the plan sponsor.
Yeah.
They need to be in charge of the people that they're hiring to do the job for them. And without transparency,
that's the
they
crazy
don't have
part
they don't
of
have
this.
any idea what goes on.
But that's the crazy part of this. They're hiring people to bilk them out of billions of dollars. It's like, hey, where's the biggest grifter I can find? Because I want to hire you so that I get defrauded.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't make that up.
And sometimes
you cannot make that up.
And sometimes when I'm on the Hill and I talk to these people and I know these people, and I trust them. I think they believe what we're telling them. But in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, here he is as a pharmacist crying about being abused by a federal agency, and it's a cry wolf situation. So until we get the general public and, people like human resource departments that have no idea what their PBM does, they believe the bill of goods that they're being sold, and they buy into it, and they don't ask the questions about the dollars. And even if they do ask
they know
the questions
to ask?
No, probably not. Even if they do and they ask the questions, they're not being told. You look at North Dakota PERS and the bill that was passed a couple sessions ago that mandated an audit of the PBM that North Dakota PERS was using. We as pharmacies in North Dakota participated in that audit. It was done by a company out of Ohio who specializes in PBM audits, which I don't know how you specialize in something that you can't get done. But we hired this company because they had done a very good job for the state of Ohio Medicaid system. We were asked by this group to give them all sorts of information on DIR fees, clawback fees, anything and everything that we felt was abusive. And we turned everything over to them. In the 90-page report that was brought back to the state, the PBMs the PBM at that juncture did not participate at all. Every time they were asked for information.
How do you not participate in an audit by people employing you?
Exactly. Everything was attorneys sending letters. That's proprietary information. You don't have a right to that information. And they never got the information.
Well, then you don't want to work for me.
So right. Well, they don't anymore. That PBM does not work for the state anymore.
Okay,
but
so they got a different PBM.
They got
does the same thing.
They got another one of the big threes that's probably worse than the one that we had before.
It's like when you go and hire an employee and you look in their job and their resume and go, "Oh, you've been convicted of embezzlement." Wow, you're going right to the top of my list for employees.
Yeah,
I let's take a break. I'm speechless.
It is. It's amazing.
We're talking with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the town.
With everything you have on your plate, earning your degree online seems impossible. But at Grand Canyon University, we specialize in helping you fit a master's degree in business into your busy day. Your graduation team, led by your own GCU counselor, provides you with the personal support you need to succeed. Achieve your goals with a plan and team behind you. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit gcu.edu.
Steve Bakken, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck Corner Drugstore. We're talking about Kevin's recent trip to Washington, D.C., and just finishing up on some of the PBMs. There's a role on the state level, there's a role on the federal level, but again, it all starts with transparency. And those that hire these folks or these companies, it kind of starts with them, because they're not getting the information they need. It's like, I'm speechless. This is such a mess trying to fix our healthcare system in this country.
Yeah, it really starts at the local level. Small businesses like myself, and we ask, but we don't get any answers, need to ask about the transparency of the PBM of the plan sponsor that they're employing. Now, most of our plan sponsors are large groups. We don't have many small insurance companies left anymore, so they're kind of married. But I think the plan sponsors are starting to get the gist of what's going on. They're starting to see that, hey, we're really not getting the dollars back that we were promised. And they're telling the people that they're marketing their services to that the PBM is part of the cost savings on the prescription drug side, and there's nothing farther from the truth. And again, it really, really comes back to transparency. And before I talk about what we actually lobbied for on Capitol Hill as a compounding pharmacy, I want to bring up one other thing about the PBMs. I was on a Zoom call with an attorney who used to work for a PBM, who's part of a group that I belong to, and in some action, trying to recover some of the dollars of the abuse, and that's as much as I'll say. The attorney said, guys, stay off social media because R is the next...
Did he say stay off the radio?
No, he didn't say stay off the radio, so I'm guilty. R's the next acronym attached to PBMs, and R's retaliation. He said we're starting to see a lot of retaliation by these large $530 billion corporations abusing by retaliating against the people that they're doing business with. Again,
because they don't want transparency. They don't want anybody to know what they're doing.
Absolutely. And in what other business do our competitors determine our business? Because these PBMs are owned by other pharmacy entities, CVS, Walmart, Walgreens. They own a portion of these PBMs. So our competitors are determining what we get paid, when we get paid, how many dollars they claw back when they remunerate what they're paying us. I told one of our congressional offices, and it was Joseph and Congressman Armstrong's office, that one of the PBMs, I got paid 41 cents for a prescription that I did for my mother. And we had to package it in a med card, and I had to deliver it to her. I didn't make 41 cents. I got paid 41 cents. That's predatory pricing. That violates our pricing laws in North Dakota. But who do I complain to? Because I don't think that our regulators at the state level are doing diligent to our PBM laws.
One of the things Congress has been doing, they've been throwing around the monopoly term a lot because they've been looking at the tech side of things.
Right,
And this is a monopoly.
Oh,
so if you're going to look at breaking up monopolies, which Congress has actually been doing a little bit of that lately, why do you not start here?
How can you have
wait a minute. Wait. Because these big companies also donate a lot of money to
I'm sure.
congressional campaigns.
All right. PCMA is the lobbying group for the PBMs on Capitol Hill. They're a behemoth. They're also ruthless. They're also liars. I'll just say it. They're not truthful in their business.
Okay, and we're not on social media, so you're fine.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so
but transparency, I think, is an important word in a lot of factors of life, and especially on Capitol Hill in Congress.
So I have another question. So when I was mayor of the city of Bismarck, and Bismarck self-insures, so we actually did some negotiation with the PBM and our healthcare provider, and how does that play into this for a company or a business that's self-insured? Because there's not many of them out there.
So many of the dollars that are generated at the PBM level are flowing back to the plan sponsor, supposedly.
So in the case of the city of Bismarck that's self-insured, that's the plan sponsor.
Right. So I would demand that you get full transparency from your PBM to see the movement of those dollars. And I almost guarantee you if you ask for that, you're going to be denied.
We did ask.
And?
Didn't get it.
So where are the dollars going?
Because we had the contract coming up on where we shuffle.
Exactly.
Under my...
How many industries can you be told that you employ us, but you don't have any idea what we're doing?
Yeah, just write us the check and we'll take care of it.
Yep. So back to transparency and why I was on Capitol Hill to in the first place. We had two major issues and three smaller ones. I'm gonna touch on the smaller one first because the last one is a major issue. So the smaller one is really trying to convince our legislators that CMS starts to need to look at compounded prescriptions as being payable through the Medicare system, because for the most part they are not right now. Part of what PBMs have a problem with is compounding pharmacies, because we're not giving them any rebate dollars. We're not giving them any kickback dollars. And if they don't make money on your prescription, they just don't pay for it. So we don't bill PBMs anymore. I refuse to do business with them on a compounding pharmacy level.
And that's why we've talked about this in the past, is a lot of your business model and a lot of compounding business models have gone to it just, here's the product, you pay for it, we're not going through insurance, and it's to a benefit of the patient.
We provide you with a national universal claim form that you can send to your PBM to get reimbursed. Never works. They totally ignore it. What happens when they get a universal claim form for a compounded prescription, they call me demanding that I sign up for being contracted with them, which doesn't make any difference because they won't pay for it anyway. Because the National Drug Code number, which is of the raw materials, is not something that they're going to get a kickback on. And again, one of the biggest problems in this model is if they don't make money on your prescription, they don't pay for it. And that's not just compounds. That's all things. So if they don't have a contract with a drug manufacturer that gives them a kickback on the adjudication of that claim, they just don't pay for it. Just like the story we told about the young asthmatic in Wisconsin who died because he was denied his inhaler because his PBM told the pharmacy that that's no longer paid for as a generic, only as a brand name. He couldn't afford it. 6 days later, he dies from an asthma attack. People's lives are in jeopardy if we continue to go down this model's road. So our first act was...
The model to me is, it's mafia tactics of strong-arming extortion money.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It's just... All right, let's come back to that after the break. This is Talk of the Town. We're talking with Kevin Odell at Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Superdoc 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. And, all right, Kev, why were you in D.C.? I mean, because you had an agenda to go to Washington and try to represent the patients.
Yeah.
That's what you guys do.
Yeah. So the first issue was the CMS issue paying for compounded prescriptions. We didn't spend a lot of time there because I just don't see that happening. The second issue, and kind of of middle importance, is maintain access to compounded hormones. It's a big part of our business. It's a big part of patients' care. We've been doing it for a long time. Here's where we ask our legislators, please come and see what we do. Because FDA funded a NASM study, which is National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, in 2020. They funded it. And of course, the report's going to reflect what they funded. But they determined that compounded hormones are too difficult to compound. Well, that's a slap in my face because I've been doing it for 33 years.
Yeah, you do that.
That's what we do. It's a big part of what we do. So you can't come into my pharmacy.
But we're not making money off it, so yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, you can't come into my pharmacy, look at what we do. Representative Armstrong did that. He was very impressed by the model of what we do, and he said it's very important that I was here because I'm told all the time, these guys don't know what they're doing. They're dangerous. They're compounding. They're rogue pharmacists. And we had laid out models that showed him.
Well, and they try to make it sound like it's like, okay, you're going to some voodoo priestess down in the bayou.
Right.
Here, drink this.
Right.
And no.
and you know, and when we have national seminars and we have medical providers, prescribers, mostly medical doctors that lecture to us on their experiences, these are extremely intelligent people who know what they're doing. And they're using us and teaming with us and creating that triad of care so that the patient gets the best outcome. You can't do that in a manufactured world. It's a one-size-fits-all. This is what's paid for. This is what the PBM makes money on. But this NASM reports...
But that's that socialized medicine model where it's like everybody needs to
everybody gets
fit
the same
under
thing.
This. And you know what? If we help 80% of the people that we're making money off of, the other 20% that are outliers, screw them.
Right.
Basically, right?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, we don't care about them because we're making money off the 80% over here.
Right. So what's happening is individual patients are having to create their own healthcare system because the system that they're pulled into doesn't provide them the healthcare that they seek. So compounded hormones are not too difficult to compound. We've been on the Hill for the last 5 years talking about this, but we just need to continue to hammer at them about this issue because at some point FDA is going to use the too difficult to compound report to say you can't do that because it's too difficult to compound. Which brings us to our major issue.
Here's another question, though. Say that happens. So now you're out of that business because it's too difficult to compound. Then it's too difficult for them to produce?
No.
But, okay. They want it both ways.
Well, it's not a level playing field.
Okay, they want it both ways.
Right.
That's not... Again, I come back to what's in the best interest of the patient. And you and I talk about triad of care constantly, ad nauseum, because I believe in that.
Oh.
They don't.
No.
They do not think that you should be your best advocate for health care. They do not believe that you should be involved in your health care decisions. Here, go through this line and take this pill, and if 80%, we're okay.
Right. So, that brings us to the last issue, which to me is the most scary with what's going on. So just a little preface. FDA can issue what are called draft guidance, draft for industry, which really gives us it. One of the problems, it's their interpretation of what the laws say, not what the laws really say. And they should not be able to skew their opinion to get between us and our patients and our prescribers. There's some good that comes out of draft guidances. During COVID, they issued a draft guidance that compounding pharmacies could compound the drugs that were being used for patients that were intubated for, anxiety and all the things associated with that. More recently, amoxicillin liquid suspensions and ibuprofen suspensions for kids have been in short supply. FDA issued a draft guidance that would allow us to compound those, because typically we're not allowed to compound things that are commercially available. So there's a good arm to this, but it's very small. The very, very scary arm is when they issue a draft guidance, there is a period for public comment, which includes us, our patients. We had 4 patients that came to Capitol Hill with us that were saved by compounding pharmacy. And they did a great job. They have great stories. One of the absolute best stories was a fireman who was sprayed by a retardant foam and it blinded him. He ended up on a work comp plan, but he was going to lose most of his retirement. He was in constant pain. He was blinded. He wasn't that old. And he showed a picture of all the eye drops that he had been prescribed. And the pharmacy that he went to was a compounder. And I know the guy. And he pulled him aside and said, "What's going on with your eyes? Because obviously something's not helping." So he told him his story, and he goes, "I think you should try these autologous serum eye drops that we're compounding," which we do a fair amount of at our pharmacy. And his patient approached his physician. He agreed because he was kind of at his wit's end. His serum didn't work for some reason, so they had to use family members as donors. This guy stood up in front of us. He could see. He was back at work. His sight had been restored. His pain was gone. He was back in his retirement plan, and he was going to Capitol Hill to tell his story to the legislators from the state of Washington, where he was from, about his story, because it is about the patient. Now,
I'm just going to attach dollars to this because that's one example. But going through the PBM process where you're pigeonholed, don't go to the compounding pharmacist, don't work with don't be involved in your medication and your path of care. And now you've got somebody that is blinded with a disability and can't work and going to be a draw on the system forever.
Right.
Or, hey, we can fix the problem because we're outside the box and we're working with the patient directly, and you're not that one-size-fits-all, and now you have a positive outcome.
Now, he was one of 4 that came to Washington, spent their time to come with us to Capitol Hill. Just imagine how many other thousands of patients are out there with a similar story. So the draft guidance that's issued, there's a period for public comment. So a patient like this guy could public comment on a draft guidance. So if the FDA issued a draft guidance that said you can no longer use a biological like blood serum to compound eye drops, which they could do, but there's a period for public comment. In January of 24, somebody that watches
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
Apply.
News Talk.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
For Bismarck Mandan, Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Kevin Oberlander, Dakota Pharmacy, Dakota Natural Health Center, downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore, and we're talking with Kevin Oberlander and his recent trip to Washington. Okay, explain these FDA secondary Okay, I get it, but for most of our listeners, they're not going to understand this. So explain that.
They better understand.
They better
understand it. So, again, the FDA has the authority to issue a GFI, draft for industry. It's a guidance on their opinion of how things should be done, which is their interpretation of what DQSAs are now our compounding laws. It's about 10, 12 years old, so it's something that we've been trying to fix because the language in there wasn't always the best, and we've made some headway. And we've only made headway because we've been able to have a little bit of open dialogue with FDA. We can go to Capitol Hill. We can talk to the legislators, especially those that are really in charge of funding the agency. Senator Hoeven's been a very good champion for us because he's on the subcommittee. He's a minority voice on the subcommittee that funds the FDA. So once we get his attention, things tend to happen. That's how government should work.
Again, I'll go back to what needs to take place is a lot of these alphabet agencies need to have their funding cut off.
Oh.
Because they're implicit for one, and it doesn't matter what industry we're talking about. The overregulation is killing us.
Yes.
And I mean literally.
And that's the arena that's in Washington
because
right now.
They're being bought off.
Oh, no.
In the FDA's case, we're talking about PBMs and Big Pharma buying off what those rules are.
So when you talk about the access to compounded hormones, there could be a day where they could issue a draft guidance that says hormones are too difficult to compound, you have to stop. There's a public period time. You're going to get a whole lot of public comment from pharmacists, prescribers, patients on something like that.
Who carries the most weight?
Well,
is it the patient? Is it the pharmacist? Is it the prescriber? Is it the big pharma, the PBMs? Who carries the most? Because I have a sneaking suspicion where this goes, but shouldn't it be the patient?
It should be the patient. No question.
That testimony should carry the most weight.
That's why the guy that was blinded. He goes to Capitol Hill with us on his time to express his disgust for the possibility that this could have never happened if things don't change in the agency. So luckily we have people that watch the Federal Registry, and they found these secondary draft guidances. So a draft guidance is issued. There's a period of public comment. In our opinion, the FDA doesn't like the public comment because it kind of proves them wrong. So they issue a secondary draft guidance. And I want to read you the exact. The problem, when the FDA is appropriately informed by stakeholder insights, the agency is better positioned to serve the best interests of public health. So if they get the message and the public has a public comment period of time, and the FDA sees that as legitimate information, what they've done is in January 2024, FDA issued a draft report and a plan on best practices for guidance that would eliminate stakeholder feedback. It would eliminate the ability for anybody to issue public comment on the original draft guidance.
Who the hell came up with that idea?
Well, FDA. So
no.
Well, that
okay. They're the mechanism by which this works.
Right.
But I will guarantee they weren't in their own ear saying you need to stop listening to the people and stop listening to the patients.
Oh yeah, there's a conglomerate of companies and individuals that have an agenda.
Again, this goes back to Congress. It's like, put your damn foot down.
You cannot silence the public.
But that's what they're trying to do.
Exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to take our voice away. And it's not just pharmacy or compounding pharmacy.
You know, we're talking about pharmacy and compounding pharmacy, but look at all the government agencies. That's the same modus operandi.
Even just Food and Drug Administration. Just look at what they oversee. And this actual report of best practices would eliminate anybody from giving input on a draft guidance that was issued because it's a secondary draft guidance.
Hey, sheep, we're just going to tell you what to do.
Yeah. Yep. You cannot silence the public. We had a Revolutionary War 200 plus years ago because there was taxation without representation. They take away my voice.
This is everything without a voice.
I'll get in, I don't care how much trouble I get in. They take away my voice. I'm gonna quit paying my taxes because we have to be represented by our elected officials.
Well, there's a lot of people that might say stop paying your taxes anyway. What's going on? But
it's mind-boggling.
It
to
is.
Me. I mean, it is frightening.
It throws everything back in the face of the fabric of how this country is supposed to operate.
Right. What happened to government by the people? It is long gone.
People.
It is long gone. And this is just a perfect example of overreach by a government agency to silence the people that are giving them information to protect the rights of themselves, their prescribers, their patients.
We talk about in North Dakota is a different animal because of the way our pharmacy is. We protect our pharmacies, our local pharmacists. And what's the next step? I mean, is it reaching out to congressional delegations? Is it reaching out to Hoven and Kramer's and Armstrong's office? Whether that office be in Washington or in Bismarck here in the near future. What does that look like? What should the population, for their best interest, what should they be doing right now?
To me, this is so egregious and so far-reaching and so wrong that everybody that's listening this morning has to understand that this is a federal agency trying to silence the public. And you have to demand to your elected officials that this does not happen. And it's not that hard. It's a draft report and plan on best practice for guidance by the FDA that would eliminate public input on a guidance that they're issuing that affects their health. And again, I'm talking about a small portion of pharmacy in compounding pharmacy that it affects us. Food and Drug Administration has a far-reaching, it's a far swath that they reach. And if they use these secondary draft guidances to silence public input, every farmer, every rancher, everybody that's in the food industry, everybody that's
it's all trickle down.
It's all trickle down.
One gets away with it, they all will.
Absolutely. They start getting away with these secondary guidances that takes
whether
away.
It's the Farm Bill or just anything. There will be no public input. Kevin, this is amazing.
I wasn't going to go, but I'm so glad I went just because of this one issue that you see what really goes on there.
How do people find out more information or how to find out how to contact your congressional delegate? Do you have any of that up on your website?
Yeah, I guess we really
stay off
don't.
Social media, though.
Yeah. I mean, these guys, these offices are very easy to contact. Go to nd.gov. You're going to find the contact information. I'm so passionate about this. Call me. I'll tell you if you have more questions, I'll spend the time with you and tell you the issues. This is so critical to not only the citizens of North Dakota, but to the people in this country that we need. If somebody doesn't see that federal registry, they start to get away with this kind of stuff before it's too late. So,
Kevin, how do people get a hold of you over at Dakota Pharmacy?
We're at Dakota Pharmacy, 7th and Main, downtown Bismarck. Stop by or give us a call.
Downtown Bismarck's Corner Drugstore. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You and I have talked healthcare because looking at going into about this in the past. So, job while you're for those that are get that and have a skill set.
What we refined, specifically is, and that's easy to. Always step number one, that we're interested in healthcare career. People out there and getting into when we'd interview them is that there are a lot of being historically is by becoming a CNA. For that field, enters and a good way to kind of into nursing career.
High school, by the way.
Well,
and you can do that.
There's other providers out there that are in high school. That's the great thing that we do. You can do it, and so that programs now like providers have their own doing it. A lot of it's long-term care, the finance. Somebody needs to take. There's always been the barrier is right. So it's with was more available. That can be really, you can stretch out without a paycheck. 2 weeks to get the first about 6 to 8 weeks. Take time to find that extra job and then take that program and get through the certification. 3 weeks gestation and then take area for people. The full wage. We want to give you as you're hired into as soon as 2 or our training.
I'm Graceslope.com. I actually got a great program. She's still in high school.
Really difficult.
She's a junior.
That financial barrier. So we're trying to remove change pretty immensely, especially in the senior living spectrum.
Just wrapped up.
The types of people that were receiving inpatient hospital care 10, 20, 30 years ago are now the ones that we're treating day in and day out in our long-term care facilities. And other shifts that have happened over the decades is now there's assisted living, there's independent living, and then more recently we're seeing more home and community-based services. And so it's an exciting time to be in healthcare just because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of need out there that we're trying to fill. And the way that we're doing it and the evolution that's happening in providing senior care is really exciting to be part of, honestly. It's part of why Gwen is here for our Missouri Slope at Home program. We were able to basically receive a grant from Lutheran Service in America that's helping us really address this new need that's out there in how can we keep people home and well longer.
And the focus is trying to keep people at home longer because of the stress on the system. And another space that long-term care facilities have kind of taken over a little bit as well is used to have, say you fell and broke a hip or you had a medical issue and you're a little bit aged and you wind up going to rehab. Well, there's no rehab space anymore either. So long-term care facilities have actually taken over a little bit of that space for the hospital system as well.
Some of the inpatient rehabs have closed, that's true. And I think it's also a response because our skilled nursing facilities locally and across the country have been doing very well at rehab. And to that point, too, a lot of the people in nursing facilities these days are coming in, they're getting rehabbed, and then they're going back home. And whatever that might be, they're to the farm, to the apartment, whatever that looks like. But how can we assure that that's a successful transition? And
that's been a change, because a little bit of a paradigm shift, because usually, what the formula used to be was somebody got into a long-term care facility and they stayed there. How nimble have you had to become with adding that onto the plate for assisted living as well? Because, now you've got in and out and in and out and in and out and different patients and then your long-term residents.
Yeah, it really has added a lot. And
different palette of services.
We've had to learn, and we allocate staff and resources throughout our buildings in different ways so that we can kind of designate certain areas as, that transitional care, that short-term area. And then as people no longer need that aggressive level of rehab, then we either transition, if they're going to be long-term in the nursing facility, we'll transition them to more of a long-term care area of the nursing facility, and or help them look to transfer to some other care area where they can be successful, whether that be assisted living, independent living, or ideally back to home.
So how challenging has it been with, because we've talked a lot coming out of COVID, and there was a little bit of a paradigm shift taking place before that. COVID hit, big paradigm shift. And coming out of that scenario, now you're dealing with workforce a lot. Where are you at on the workforce front? Because I drive by your facilities and, hey, we're hiring. Yeah. Everybody's hiring. That's part of the problem. Everybody can't find enough workers.
Yeah, we've been through a lot the last couple of years. To add to it, we were opening a new nursing facility throughout COVID, so our workforce needs were inflated during that because we had to have even more as we were opening the new building. And so we relied quite a bit on contract or travel workers, as most healthcare institutions are requiring and relying on. But we were doing that at an extent to just above and much higher than is really sustainable. The travel worker, it's such a great short-term fix to help us get by. But in senior living and in healthcare, the most success you have is when you have people that are there day in and day out and know the resident, they know their needs, they can plan and respond to these residents and really provide that higher level of quality of care for them.
Familiarity matters.
When they're there day in and day out.
Well, and you mentioned the travel workers, and whether that's in CNA or nursing or physicians or different specialties, you're right. It is a great short-term fix to fill a void, but cost-wise, it's not a long-term solution. It's just not, because we're seeing that ratcheting up of medical costs and providing health care, and there's a breaking point at some point on the spectrum. So how are you managing that? I mean, because you want employees. You're not necessarily wanting the on-call or the travel staffing, because it's not cost-effective in the long term, is it?
No, that's true. And so we implemented a few different strategies to help us kind of overcome and start employing more of our own. Our largest department as a nursing facility is CNA, and then the second largest departments are going to be nurses, your RNs and LPNs. And so going through tactics such as just wage and benefit increases, different hiring practices, more same day on the spot job interviews, and just trying to really shorten up that process. And then probably the biggest needle mover for us has been the CNA training program that we're able to implement. And we actually hire people into that program, and they're paid the full wage as they're training, and they're hired into, and then they have a spot for them on the calendar waiting for them as soon as they're certified. So that's been really impactful for us.
We're coming up against a break, but I want to talk a little bit about that program just in a minute or so. For those that are looking at going into healthcare, because you and I have talked about this in the past, great program, great opportunity to learn, get that skill set, and have a job while you're doing it.
Absolutely.
So how do people find out more about getting into that program?
Well, calling us, of course, going to MissouriSlope.com, giving us a call and asking our HR representatives about the program is probably step number one, and that's the easiest. What we were finding historically is that there are a lot of people out there when we'd interview them that were interested in getting into healthcare careers, specifically into nursing careers. And a good way to kind of, enter that field is by becoming a CNA. Well,
and you can do that in high school, by the way.
You can do it in high school. There's other providers out there that are doing it. A lot of long-term care providers have their own programs now, like we do. And so that's the great thing, that there's more available. The barrier has always been the finances, right? So if somebody needs to take 2 or 3 weeks just to get through the certification, and then take time to find a job, and then take that extra 2 weeks to get the first paycheck, you can stretch out 6 to 8 weeks without a paycheck. That can be really, really difficult. So we're trying to remove that financial barrier for people, and that's why we want to give you the full wage as soon as you're hired into that program and our training.
MissouriSlope.com, great program. And I actually got a niece that she's still in high school, and she's a junior this year, and she's just wrapped up her CNA, going through a program. Great opportunity, because she just fell in love with the healthcare side of things, working in a long-term care facility. We're talking with Ryer Thompson, Executive Director of Missouri Slope, also Gwen Beckler, and we're going to talk about the paradigm shift, a little bit of change in healthcare, and where the focus has really gone. And that's coming up next. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable.
Back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, along with Ryer Thompson, Executive Director, Missouri Slope. Also, Gwen Beckler, Director of Missouri Slope At-Home Services. And I want to shift a little bit, Gwen, because a lot of the focus has changed into, okay, how do we keep up people in their homes longer? That's really where long-term care has gone, because we saw this kind of through COVID. We saw this with the workforce shortage. We saw this in some different spaces, that it's like, okay, how do we facilitate somebody's quality of life being better longer? And that's keeping people at home.
It really is. It really is. And so when we look at Missouri Slope at Home and what we decided to do in terms of putting a program together, we wanted to look at essentially what the needs were out there. And so in order to do that, we addressed 5 different areas. We did assessments on what does social isolation look like? What does their transportation look like? Food security. Do they have access to health care? And is their home even safe to live in? And so we really look strongly at those pieces before we put a program in play. And once we realize that, based on community, whether you're rural, whether you're in inner city, the pieces, the resources were different in all of those places. So we really decided to put together a full service program offering non-medical care, everything from assisting someone with their areas of daily living, dressing, bathing, etc., homemaker services, laundry, housekeeping, even yard work. And then we also do a meal delivery program. And we looked at those are the pieces that people really essentially need assistance with to get them through their day, to keep them healthy, and then to keep them happily living in their own community, in their own home.
A lot of those things are things we take for granted, but the transportation is one that really gets taken for granted because without mobility, you can't make it to the grocery store. You can't make it to your doctor's appointment. There's a lot of pieces to that. So walk through these one at a time and, let's start at the beginning. It's like, okay, somebody reaches out to, Grandma and Grandpa might need a little extra help. How do we find those resources? They reach out to Missouri Slope and go, okay, what do we do? I'm assuming the first place is assessment.
Yes. So I'm going to get some general information with them and then, make sure that mom or dad or grandma or grandpa are on board. We'll go directly to their home. We'll sit down and we'll just have a talk. What are their goals? Is it,
what are your needs?
What are your needs and what are your goals? If their goal is I want to stay at home, then how do we keep you here? We're going to check and do a walk through the house to make sure that it's a safe place to stay. First of all, if they have to navigate 17 steps to get up to a restroom and a bedroom, probably not the safest place. Is there an alternative bedroom on the main floor, those types of things. So we're looking at home safety, and then we talk about what is that person's needs. Are they using a walker? Do they need additional things like physical therapy, home therapy? We want to talk about, are they driving anymore? Do they need someone to drive them? Do they have family members running errands? So it's a very deep, intense assessment, really finding out all of the pieces of what's going on currently in their world. And
a lot of that comes back to what's their support system? Because
right.
You mentioned the family, and we take, again, a place we take for granted. Do you have family? Do you have friends? Do they have the time? Are they willing to go out of their way to make some of those accommodations? Are they, what's there already for a support system? Where can you lean on that support system? And then Missouri Slope has the ability to come in and augment all of that.
100% correct, yes. So one of the questions that I ask people all the time is, would you consider yourself independent? And they say yes. And then I will say, okay, well, who does your groceries? Who does your laundry? Is anyone doing, your yard work? How do you get from point A to point B? Do you go to your doctor's appointments by yourself? And if they say, well, no, my son does this, my daughter does this, my neighbor does that, truly, you're not independent.
No.
Now, it's just a way for me to get people to realize that, hey, I do need additional assistance with some pieces. And then we start talking about, okay, what is it that's going to make your life easier? Because someone doesn't always want to start with all the care. It's not like, we all think that we're great, we're independent, we don't need any help. And we have a lot of pride in North Dakota, especially, that we don't want to ask for help. And so it's really about saying, what can we do that's going to be the first step to make life easier? Sometimes it might just be providing a meal. Having someone go over there a couple hours a week to do a little laundry and housekeeping. Get someone used to going there and get them used to having someone come in. Often we don't get a call where you have to go in and start 24-hour care because, they might have already had some care, or unless there's been an accident or injury. Usually it's just, we are noticing some problems with mom or dad. Now let's start. The alternative of that is if someone is coming from our skilled community, from the rehab section and our rehab portion of our of Missouri Slope, and they want to transition home. And they get home, but they realize, I might have been walking what I need to get home. I
a little more than I can handle.
Get dressed, do all the things, but I'm tired now. That's what I'm just exhausted now. I can't prepare my meal, and I can't do some of the things. So we're trying to work very closely also with Missouri Slope on their discharge, with anyone who's discharging from the rehab or any part of Missouri Slope for that matter, to go to them and say, okay, what can we do, at least for a week or two? Let's see if we can get you set up for success and not have a reoccurrence of incident. And that happens a lot. I mean, reoccurrence is one of the reasons why rehab is there. People get home, they're not ready to be home, they fall, they have another incident, they go back to the hospital, they go back to rehab. And so we're trying to avoid that. So if we can follow those people directly from the skilled community back to their home, whether that's their own home in the community or an assisted living apartment, we can do both of those things. We can go in, we can put in added supports, and we can help them get set up to either be independent again, or we might just hang out with them as they go through that aging journey.
So let's take the rehab and all that out, because now we're talking about incidences and something happened and now you need that assessment. But where should you start for having a long-term plan to try to keep somebody in their home? Because that doesn't, so often it's like, okay, somebody had a fall and they have to go into a rehab, or something happens.
Right.
You really don't want to be in a position that now you're trying to do some crisis management on top of having a plan in place. You really should start looking at that earlier, shouldn't you?
You really should. And as a matter of fact, when I came on and started developing this program, I had gone through this process with my own parents, who are both passed on, but really started to think, what are the things that we could have done better for them? And so I put together what we call our future care planning guide. And essentially, it's a step-by-step walking through where you are today. If this and that happen, what would you want? What would you want for care? Would you want to go somewhere? Would you want to move to a one level? Would you want to go to assisted living? What are your preferences, right? And so planning for your future is essential. And that doesn't mean when you're 60 and you have a fall. It means when you're 40, when you're 50, and in your 60s, and starting to think about, I'm not going to live forever, and my body is not as limber as it used to be, and so I have to start thinking about these things.
Let's walk through that when we come back from the break. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, talking to Ryer Thompson, Executive Director of Missouri Slope, also Gwen Beckler, Director of Missouri Slope At-Home Services. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, along with Ryer Thompson, Executive Director of Missouri Slope, also Gwen Beckler, Director of Missouri Slope At-Home Services. Okay, Gwen, where should you start looking through this process, starting down? I mean, people have succession plans, they have long-term, this is what we're going to do with our property, this is what we're going to do with our will. You need to start looking at a plan on what your quality of life is going to be as you start aging, because the decisions you make at an earlier point in time are going to have some ramifications later. Because we talked a little bit about, okay, a lot of people don't think about, well, what's my long-term care situation look like when there's a crisis situation? You have a fall, you break a hip, you have to exit your home. The goal is to try to stay in your home as long as possible, as long as you have that quality of care and that quality of life is being able to be maintained there. But where should you start looking at, sit down with the family and have a conversation that this is what we'd like to do, this is where we'd like to go, we'd like to stay in our home, but, this is that process, because there's a slow ramp up. If you're not talking about a crisis situation, there's a ramp up to what you may need, and addressing that earlier is better than later.
Yes, 100%. And I think that any time is the right time to start. I mean, when I developed this future care planning guide, I took them home and my husband and I opened them up and we started writing down the information just as a general guideline. And you don't have to get 100% specific in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, but start getting more specific when you start hitting 50 and 60, because we all start feeling our age a little bit. Yes, and it's continuation, right? And so I think at any point, if you want to call Missouri Slope at Home, great, we can get you that future care planning guide. But AARP has a wonderful guide on their website. The resources are out there. People just have to take the time and sit down and do them. I think when people lose
people
a
need to be
spouse,
aware of them as well.
Yes, they do. 100%. When people lose a spouse, I think that's really the time they start thinking, oh gosh, now I'm by myself. Now what happens? Who's going to take care of me? I've been taking care of my spouse. Who's going to take care of me now? And I think that's really the time that people kind of reactively plan.
Well, and that's more that crisis management.
It is.
Something happened and you're dealing
Yes.
with a crisis
Yes.
situation instead of, okay, what's our contingency leading up to this?
Right. And so I'm going to jump off topic just for a second. As part of the grant, when we put together Missouri Slope at Home, we also put together what we call a Rural Aging Action Network. And the grant really said, let's get partners in your area to essentially address some of those gaps in care throughout rural. We're working in Burley, Morton, McLean, and soon to be Oliver counties. So we've put together partnerships with people, other organizations that provide a service to seniors or have a hand in senior care in some way, shape, or form. Each of the members of this RAN meet on a monthly basis and address some of these gaps. Each one of them now has access to these future guides, and some of them have developed their own since they've been part of this group. And so I think if you call any service entity within the 4 counties that I mentioned, and throughout North Dakota, there's many others, I'm just mentioning the ones that we're focusing on, they will have some sort of planning guide available to you, or they will get you the one that we have designed and distributed free of charge to all of our partner members within our RAN.
So all these pieces coming together, big picture, and because it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't about keeping people into their homes.
Right.
I mean, nursing home care was warehousing people until they were. That is not what we're talking about any way, shape, or form. The quality of care, the levels of care, the different facets of care has changed, and it's been fairly recently, Ryer.
Absolutely. I'd say it's evolved pretty quickly. Something that helped jumpstart it, I think, frankly, was that the state of North Dakota was in hot water with the Department of Justice, where they identified North Dakota as not doing a great enough job moving people into the most integrated setting. And so they really have helped us as a state kind of reprioritize and focus on home and community-based services. And so how we're going to allow people, again, to stay home, stay in that preferred setting, is going to take a lot. It's going to take the RANs. It's going to take the future conversations with your families. Workforce is going to be another big part of it. And we haven't touched on this that much as far as, our goal of really, realizing that it's not going to be just Missouri Slope at Home that's going to be able to accomplish all of this or any of these other partners. How can we educate and empower family caregivers, community caregivers? So that's another big part of our grant and our focus in the program is trying to develop ways to take for instance, we have a goal of taking our CNA training program, kind of taking it on the road, taking it to these other small communities and just getting people those skills and those trainings so that if they maybe have a situation where they are a caregiver of a family member, that then they're more qualified and confident to help do that. And then someday when that situation is no longer a reality for them, maybe they've enjoyed those skills and want to actually start working in healthcare. So it could be a benefit long-term to workforce as well.
So big picture, and Missouri Slope's got a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on. You guys have done a lot of growth recently in a very short period of time. You've got the new building up on North Washington. You still have your other facilities. What's that landscape look like? You got a ribbon cutting coming up we got to talk about. You got a lot going on.
That's very true. Yeah. So that's why, me specifically relying on smart people like Gwen and all the other talented people I get to work with every day at Missouri Slope is so helpful. And but setting the vision and the strategy, we work together. Obviously, we're a local organization. If I haven't already mentioned that, we exist, created by the community to serve the community. Local member community member churches serve as our member partners, and they supply board members to our governing board. So it's all people of this community trying to serve this community. So we respond by doing things like building the new nursing facility because we know that today and into the future, people need a higher level of care. And the Hillview property had served us well for 50 plus years, but now we're trying to take it to the next level. And so that's a result of having the second campus. Having the legacy property over on Hillview Avenue, now we have a lot of opportunity there to kind of pause and look at the landscape for the current and future of what is that building going to be best utilized for. And so
gives you a little flexibility in where do we need to be to meet the needs of the community.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And so we're currently conducting more market studies and doing our own studies to find out, what are the discharge needs? What are the high demand needs? Is it for, low income housing? Is it basic care? Is it more skilled nursing? We can see where the occupancy rates are and things like that. We're very aware of that, but it's trying to determine, where they're going to be heading into the future as well, now that we've layered in other service lines such as our at-home program.
Gwen, quickly, at-home program, how do people find out more information about that? Because I think that's, you mentioned ARP and different organizations out there, but it's really a resource that people need to start tapping into, but they need to be aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The Missouri Slope at Home program you can find on our website, which is missourislope.com/at-home. You can give us a call at 223-9407, and you can certainly talk to any other provider of aging services in this area, and they will know about the RAN, and they will get you connected to the appropriate organization.
Ribbon cutting. You got a little event coming up.
We sure do. Our building opened, we were certified November of 21, and it was still the thick of COVID, especially in nursing facilities. So we just really haven't had any type of grand opening or anything like that. And then fast forward to today, and we now have opened up our Missouri Slope Cafe and Coffee Shop in the new building. And so it's kind of going to be a dual purpose ribbon cutting to really celebrate the building in general, since we never did that, and then also celebrate this great new bistro where day in and day out people that live and work there are able to come down and get a custom coffee or lunch or whatever it might be, and just really make it a destination where they can invite friends and family up there. And it's really just been a great experience for everybody. It's really transitioned and been life-changing for a lot of people that live and work there.
When's the ribbon cutting coming up, and how does the public come check out your new facilities?
Yeah, we're going to have our doors open from 2 o'clock on June 27th, and the ribbon cutting will officially take place at 3:30 on Thursday, June 27th. So we'd like to invite anybody to stop by, check out the new bistro, grab a coffee. We'll have some cake and punch and all those goodies, and it'll be a fun celebration.
Well, thanks for coming in today. A lot of great information out there when it comes to long-term care and the different aspects of long-term care and how long-term care has really changed over the really short period of time when you're looking at helping with the rehab facilities and trying to keep people into their homes for improving that quality of life, which is really what it's all about. Gwen, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
This is Talk of the Town. You can go to MissouriSlope.com, by the way. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Glenn Beck.
Will we work together for equal justice? One where Hunter Biden could get a fair trial in the reddest of states, and Trump could get a fair trial in the bluest of states. Until we restore truth and equal justice, any honest person who votes differently than I do has got to admit the Justice Department has been perverted. Equal justice no longer exists.
The Glenn Beck Program.
The Glenn Beck Program. Weekdays from 11 till 2 on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town. Weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.